Yesterday I learned something really insane. It's something I didn't even realize that I had incorrect. So in Ayurveda, there are constitutions. Basically, they not only describe kind of descriptions of the way that the body energies flow, but they could also be descriptions and energies that flow through all things. So whether that's your skin and organ system or the way that your personality is and so on. There are 3 major constitutions, and then there are 3 others which are a combination of each of those 2 intertwined with each other. The first one is vata. Basically, this is a combination of air and ether. And this is an energy that's very light and airy, changeable, movable. There's very specific characteristics that go with this vata energy. So the way that it, for example, affects the skin or somebody's energy levels or personality or their digestive habits and so on. And there's specific foods that are really good for that type. I highly recommend either a practitioner works with you to figure out your type and basically help you determine certain habits, foods, practices that would be useful, or to even just quickly go online and start off with a self-diagnosis, self-analysis with these types, because there's questionnaires that take you through different aspects that might relate to these types. Now, the second type is pitta, and this is a very fiery principle. It concerns fire and water. It's usually a very strong constitution that's very motivated, has a lot of energy, really good digestive fire. And these things can also tend towards the negative aspects. So, for example, pitta imbalance would include overly angry or stimulated hypersensitive energies in the body, things like ulcers developing because of extremely erratic energy. And then the third type is kapha. And kapha is basically water and earth. It's a very stable, grounded, kind of solid type of energy that's a little bit more slow-moving. Each of these 3 doshas, as they're called, or 3 types, basically concerns certain qualities or certain events in the body. So kapha is typically slick and smooth and mucousy and slow, and usually relates to the mucus lining, mucus, cartilage, the lymph system, things like that. Pitta is transformative energy, so that's typically digestion and assimilation, basically how energies are used in the body. And vata is very much the nervous system and the connections between things and kind of the motion. Kapha is very much a structural energy as well, so the structure of how something operates. So already maybe from these types of examples, you might feel drawn to one of them or feel like you are that type, or even be able to classify a few people that you know. Typically it's way more in depth than this. But what I discovered is that I had forgotten for a while that I had a vata, high vata constitution within my breakdown, and I had focused solely on pitta, and I had this idea that was so extremely imbalanced, and I was very angry and tempestuous, and there's so much fire going on. I'd mixed it up with my natal chart, which is basically a triple fire sign: Leo, Sun, Aries moon, and Sagittarius rising. This had nothing to do with what's going on. I do have high pitta, but my vata is also really high. So I'm actually vata pitta constitution. It's both of those together, which is a little different than each one individually, and I would get into that more in depth in another video. But basically, sometimes if you misdiagnose yourself or you don't know where you're at, you might be giving yourself things that you can't use or that you don't need. Like, I was trying to calm myself down, or, basically treat myself on the basis of something that wasn't the actual imbalance. Whereas looking through the vata descriptions, it's like, oh, that's what it is. I don't like routine, but a routine would be really helpful to help ground these energies, oftentimes like all up in here, up in my head. And, yes, I have a lot of ideas, but I need a little bit more practical energy to make it possible. And then, of course, their tastes and they associate with these doshas and how their balance is in the body. And so, there's like these kinds of foods that you eat and you're like, yeah, man, this hit me in all my organ systems. This feels right. This brings me to life. This activates me. That could very well be something that a certain dosha in your body was calling for, or that your constitution as a person really craves or needs and is supportive to you. So I really encourage you to look into these things, because it's part of the science of self-healing as you begin to learn the different organs, the different systems, the different methods of diagnosis, and then to support yourself on the journey. Like basically how you can best support a certain energy in the body. Like if you're feeling a little sluggish in this way, what are certain tastes or habits that can elevate you or basically knock out some of the blockages. And most importantly, I think, like one of the disclaimers here is that, you could go to the doctor and they say, you have this, right? And then maybe you go to 5 other doctors and each one says something. But if you'd listen to the first one and they said you have this diagnosis, and then you go home and start treating yourself for that, what if you don't even have that? So that was an important realization for me, that sometimes we misattribute certain things, and then we sit there trying to solve a puzzle that essentially, you've got all the wrong pieces. I would be super happy to share more about Ayurveda, as I've been looking into it over the last few years, but specifically now with this amazing library that I'm so grateful for. So many books that I've been longing to look into, to find in my path. Of course, they're just right here, strewn in my path, in the middle of the jungle in Nicaragua. I would be more than happy to continue sharing my experiences with these things. I'm especially excited about The Gospel is Seen of Peace, and look out for a video reading through that, because yes, these types of practices are really important for reminding us of how to take care of our energy and basically get the best out of our experience. So hopefully see you then.